The morning sunlight streamed through the expansive windows of Isabel's home, casting a soft golden glow over the tranquil space. At 58, she had carefully shaped her life into a quiet, comforting routine. A successful architect, she had spent years navigating the demands of a competitive career while raising her 2 children with her husband Victor. Victor, having retired early from his high-powered job in finance, now spent his days tending to his garden and tinkering with vintage cars. Though their relationship was civil, it had long lost the spark it once had. They coexisted like roommates, sharing a home but seldom connecting. Isabel knew it wasn't resentment between them. There was just a void, an absence of the intimacy and passion she once craved. Her children had grown up and left the nest. Her daughter had moved to Paris, while her son and his wife were starting their own family. As Isabel sipped her morning tea, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing in her life, though she couldn't quite put her finger on it. That afternoon, Isabel's old friend Richard dropped by unexpectedly. Richard had been a part of their lives for as long as Isabel could remember an artist with a reputation for his thoughtful and evocative paintings, and a man with a knack for making everyone feel at ease. 10 years older than Victor, Richard's presence seemed timeless. His kind eyes and easygoing nature had always made him a constant source of comfort in Isabel's life. "I was in the neighbourhood," Richard said, handing her a small bouquet of wildflowers as he stepped inside. "Thought I'd drop by and see how you were doing." Isabel smiled warmly as she accepted the flowers, her heart lifting at the familiar gesture. "Victor's out at our show," she said, leading him to the living room. "I came to see you," Richard replied with a wry smile. "It's been too long since we've had a proper chat." They sat down, and Richard began sharing stories of his latest art projects and his newfound love for restoring antique furniture. Isabel found herself captivated by the way his eyes sparkled when he spoke of his latest masterpiece. For the first time in years, she felt a flutter of excitement she hadn't realized she'd been missing. Over the next few weeks, Richard's visits became more frequent. He brought over fresh bread from a local bakery, dropped by for coffee, or simply sat with her while they talked about anything and everything. Each time, Isabel felt an undeniable shift in their connection, like the distance between them was slowly closing. One rainy afternoon, as they sat by the fire with cups of tea in hand, Richard turned to her, his expression unusually serious. "Isabel, can I ask you something?" he said gently. Her heart skipped a beat. "Of course," she replied, her voice steady but with a hint of anticipation. "Are you happy?" Richard's words hung in the air, raw and vulnerable. Isabel's breath caught in her throat. She wasn't sure how to answer. And after a long pause, she said, "I am grateful for everything I have, but there are times when I wonder if I am truly living." Richard reached out, his hand brushing against hers. "You deserve to feel alive, Isabel, to be truly seen." His words felt like a revelation. For the first time in ages, someone had seen beyond her role as a mother, wife, and professional. He was seeing her the woman she once was, the woman she had forgotten. Isabel felt a rush of conflicting emotions. This was dangerous. Richard had been a close friend of Victor's for decades, but as Richard held her gaze, she didn't pull away. In that moment, she realized that her life had been lacking a kind of depth she hadn't even known was possible. The days that followed were filled with longing. Isabel tried to focus on her work, but her thoughts kept drifting back to Richard. She replayed their conversations over and over, the way his eyes lingered on hers, the warmth of his hand brushing hers. She was caught between the loyalty she felt toward her husband and the undeniable pull toward a love that felt authentic and alive. The turning point came at a local art gallery event. Victor had declined the invitation, as he often did these days, leaving Isabel to attend alone. As she mingled with the other guests, she spotted Richard across the room. His presence grounded her amidst the crowd like an anchor. He made his way toward her, a glass of wine in hand. "You look incredible," he said softly, his eyes filled with admiration. They spent the evening together, their connection deepening with each shared laugh and stolen glance. By the time the event ended, Isabel knew she couldn't deny what she was feeling anymore. As they walked to her car, the cool night air wrapping around them, she stopped and turned to Richard. "This," she began, her voice trembling, "this scares me, but it also feels like the most honest thing I've felt in years." Richard cupped her face in his hands, his touch gentle yet firm. "Isabel, you've spent so much of your life giving to others. Let me give to you for once. Let me show you the love you deserve." When their lips met, everything else seemed to fall away. It was a kiss full of promise, of rediscovery, of things left unsaid for far too long. Over the next few weeks, Isabel and Richard shared quiet moments of intimacy, laughter, and connection. Richard reminded Isabel of the woman she had once been, the woman who embraced life fully, who believed in love and adventure without hesitation. Yet their relationship wasn't without its challenges. Isabel felt a deep sense of guilt, torn between the love she had for her family and the love she was beginning to feel for Richard. The resolution came one evening as she sat with Victor. For the first time in years, they had an honest conversation about their marriage. "We've been drifting apart for so long, Isabel," Victor admitted, his voice heavy with regret. "Maybe it's time we both acknowledged it. We deserve more than this, than just coexisting." The conversation was painful but necessary. With Victor's understanding and blessing, Isabel knew she could move forward with clarity. She began building a new life with Richarda, life filled with laughter, adventure, and the kind of love that made her feel alive again. And just when Isabel thought everything had settled into its new rhythm, life threw her one last twist. One evening, while Richard was working late on a new project, Isabel discovered an old letter tucked in the back of a Drorera letter written by Victor years ago, before he had retired. It was a heartfelt confession about how he had always known that Isabel was meant for something greater, something more fulfilling. The letter revealed his quiet support for her dreams, even when he couldn't articulate it. Reading those words, Isabel realized that, in a way, they had both been waiting for the right moment to truly live it in their own way. And now she had the chance to embrace it fully.